Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'd love it if you could leave a comment letting me know where you're listening from around the world. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe if you're enjoying this video. Story 1. I used to be a hunting guide in New Mexico, deep in a high desert where the land stretches forever and the nights swallow the light whole. I spent more time out there than I did in civilization. And I thought I knew those lands like the back of my hand. Thought I knew every sound, every shadow, every trick the desert played. I was wrong. One late October, I took a group of clients on a 5-day hunting trip near the Jicarilla Apache Reservation. The trip was a success. We tracked elk through the thick pinyon pines, camped beneath skies so clear you could see the entire Milky Way stretching above you like a promise. And when the clients bagged their trophies, they left happy. I should have left with them, but I didn't. I decided to stay one last night at the camp alone, packing up gear and making sure the area was left as it should be. I built a small fire, ate the last of my provisions, and sat under the cold stars, listening to the silence. The kind of silence you only hear in the desert. Deep and endless. A silence that makes you feel like you're the last person on earth. At some point, I felt it. A prickle at the back of my neck. The feeling of being watched. I wasn't afraid. Not at first. You learn to trust your gut in the wilderness. But you also learn not to overreact. There are plenty of things that watch you out there. Mountain lions, coyotes, even bears. They usually keep their distance. But this felt different. I shined my flashlight into the darkness beyond the firelight. Nothing. But the feeling didn't go away. I packed up fast after that. By the time I loaded the last of my gear into my truck, the fire had burned down to embers. The desert stretched around me, black and empty. I took one last look before climbing into the driver's seat. That's when I saw it. Just at the edge of the dying firelight, something moved. It was low to the ground, hunched. Not quite human, not quite animal. It had the shape of a coyote, but it was wrong. Its limbs were too long, its back too high. And when it moved, it didn't walk. It twitched, like a broken puppet, jerked along by invisible strings. I slammed the door shut, turned the key in the ignition, and gunned it down the dirt road. The headlights carved out the path ahead, but in my rearview mirror, I saw something dart between the trees. Too fast, too straight, keeping pace with me. I told myself it was my imagination. Then the smell hit me. Rotting meat and wet fur. Thick, putrid, as if something dead had been lying in the sun for days. I gagged, rolled down the window, but the stench didn't go away. It was inside the truck with me. I didn't stop, didn't slow down. The reservation road was long and empty. And by the time I reached the highway, the smell had faded. I thought I'd left it behind. But when I got home, something changed. The moment I stepped onto my porch, the air around me felt heavy. My cabin sat alone at the base of a ridge, surrounded by miles of desert. No neighbors, no traffic, just me and the land. I'd always felt safe there. But that night, the silence wasn't comforting. It was wrong. I locked every door and window, checked them twice. My rifle stayed next to my bed, and my hunting knife under my pillow. I barely slept. Sometime after midnight, I woke up. Something was outside. Not footsteps, not scratching, breathing. Slow, rattling breaths. Right against my bedroom window. I stayed completely still, my hand wrapped around the knife handle. My heart hammered against my ribs, my skin slick with sweat. The breathing didn't move away. It just stayed, waiting. Then I heard it. A whisper. Low. Guttural. My name. My full name. I don't know how long I lay there, frozen, listening to that thing breathe, listening to it whisper. The voice was rough, like someone who had smoked for 50 years. But beneath the rasp, there was something else, something familiar. It sounded like my grandfather. My grandfather had been dead for nearly 15 years. I don't remember falling asleep, but I must have, because I woke to sunlight creeping through the window, my body stiff and sore. For a long moment, I stayed in bed, trying to convince myself it had been a dream. Then I went outside. The air was crisp, the sky a bright, cloudless blue. But when I looked down at the dirt around my cabin, the breath left my lungs. Footprints. Not human. Not animal. Wrong. They looked like coyote tracks at first glance, but they were too long, too thin, as if a man's foot had been stretched and warped into something else. They circled my cabin, over and over and over. I never saw it again. But sometimes, when the wind is still and the desert night is black and endless, I hear it. A voice, just outside my window, whispering my name. Story 2. I grew up in Arizona, near the edge of the Navajo Nation, where the land stretched out in endless, sunburnt waves and the nights were darker than sin. My grandfather was a medicine man, the kind of man who saw things nobody else did. He used to tell me and my cousin, Tommy, stories about the Yeenaldlishai, the Skinwalkers. Never wander too far, he'd say, rocking in his old wooden chair, pipe smoke curling around his head like a ghost. There are things in the desert that wear the skins of men, but they ain't human. I was 16 when I stopped believing those were just stories. It was a late September night, the kind where the desert air is sharp enough to cut, and the wind whispers through the sagebrush like a dying breath. Tommy and I had heard about an abandoned trailer sitting alone in the middle of nowhere, way out past the old highway, where nobody had lived for years. People said drifters used it sometimes, but mostly it just sat there, rotting under the weight of time. Naturally, being dumbass teenagers, we wanted to check it out. We took Tommy's old Ford, a rust bucket of a truck that rattled like a skeleton when it got over 40. The road out there was dust and gravel, nothing but flat land and scattered scrub, and the stars burned so bright they almost hurt to look at. The trailer sat there in the moonlight, hunched and forgotten. The door was gone, probably stolen or kicked in, and the windows were just empty holes, staring out like dead eyes. We parked about 20 yards away, killed the engine, and stepped out. The second my boots hit the ground, I felt it. The air was too still. The desert is never truly silent. There's always wind, insects, the occasional coyote howl. But that night, nothing. Tommy must have felt it too, because he hesitated before clicking on his flashlight. Creepy as hell, man, he muttered, forcing a grin. Bet there's a meth head passed out inside. I forced a laugh. Yeah, hope he's friendly. We started toward the trailer, our flashlights bobbing across the dirt. And that's when we saw him. A man, standing about 30 feet away. Just standing there. He was facing away from us, his back stiff, his arms limp at his sides. He had no flashlight, no car, nothing. Just him, in the middle of nowhere. I stopped walking. So did Tommy. Hey man, Tommy called out. You good? No response. The sick feeling in my gut tripled. There was something wrong about him. His clothes were dark, blending into the night, but his skin, God, his skin was too pale, too smooth. I swallowed hard. Hey, I said, you lost or something? Silence. Then, he turned around, but his legs didn't move. His torso twisted first, slow and unnatural, like a rusted hinge creaking open. His head followed, stretching too far, too smoothly. That's when I saw his face. It was wrong. His eyes were just black holes. No whites, no irises, just empty voids that sucked in the light. His mouth was there, but it didn't move. He just stared. Tommy made a sound. Half gasp, half whimper. Oh, hell no. We ran. I don't even remember turning around. 1 second I was staring at that thing, and the next I was bolting for the truck. Tommy fumbled with the keys, cursing under his breath. Then he was there, right next to my window. I swear to God, we never heard him move. 1 second he was 30 feet away, the next he was standing right against the glass, his 2 long fingers pressed against it. I saw his mouth move then. It stretched wide, too wide, but there was no sound. The truck roared to life, and Tommy slammed his foot on the gas. We tore out of there, kicking up a storm of dust behind us. I looked in the side mirror. He was still standing there, just watching. We didn't stop until we hit Tommy's house, tires skidding into the driveway. His grandma must have heard the commotion because she came outside, wrapped in a shawl, her eyes sharp as razors. The second she saw our faces, she paled. You saw it, she whispered. We didn't answer. We didn't have to. She grabbed a bundle of sage, lit it, and started chanting. Smoke filled the air, thick and sweet, and she made us stand there until the whole thing burned down to ashes. You've been marked, she said when she finished. Don't go out at night. Not for a while. That was the first night. That night, I woke up to a sound outside my window. I live on the 2nd floor, but something was tapping on the glass. Slow, methodical. Tap, tap, tap. I didn't look. The next morning, I found my back door wide open. This happened every night for a week. Every night, I woke up to tapping. Every morning, I found the door open. I don't know what would have happened if I had stepped outside. Eventually, it stopped. But sometimes, even now, when I'm alone at night, I feel it, watching, waiting, and I know, deep down, that it let me go once. But it might not next time. Story 3. I never should have gone for that walk. Looking back, I can see all the warning signs. The way the wind died as the sun slipped behind the trees. The strange hush that settled over the land like a heavy blanket. The way Rocky's hackles raised before I even saw her. But hindsight is a cruel thing, isn't it? It tells you all the ways you could have avoided your worst mistakes, but only after you've made them. I was visiting my uncle in Utah, his little house sitting alone near the Uinta Basin. It's a beautiful place, if you don't mind the emptiness. The land stretches wide and wild, and the silence can make you feel like the last person on earth. It's the kind of quiet that isn't really quiet at all, just waiting. I had been there a few days when it happened. One evening, I took my uncle's dog, Rocky, for a walk. He was a good dog, one of those big, sturdy shepherd mixes that look like they could take on a mountain lion and win. We walked along the tree line behind the house, a simple path my uncle had worn down over the years. The sun had just set, leaving streaks of deep purple and red across the sky. And then that feeling, that awful, gut-deep feeling of being watched. Rocky stopped so suddenly that I almost tripped over him. His body went rigid, ears pinned back, tail tucked so tight between his legs it almost disappeared. His entire posture screamed fear. I followed his gaze. That's when I saw her, a woman, standing at the edge of the woods. She was too tall, too thin, like something stretched into the shape of a person, but never meant to be one. Her arms hung limp at her sides, long fingers twitching slightly. And her face, I couldn't focus on it. It was like my brain refused to process what I was seeing. The features were there, but they weren't. Every time I tried to focus, it was like looking at a photograph blurred by a shaking hand. I told myself she was just a person, a lost hiker maybe. Hey, are you okay? I called out. My voice sounded too loud in the unnatural quiet. She didn't answer, didn't move, didn't even breathe. Then Rocky whimpered, a deep, terrified sound I had never heard from him before. He took a step back, and I felt something primal and cold flood my body. That was when she moved. She took a step forward, but something was wrong. Her knee bent the wrong way, like a puppet with its strings pulled in the wrong direction. Her neck tilted, slowly, too far to the side. And that's when I saw the worst thing of all. Her feet weren't touching the ground. I don't remember making the decision to run. One second I was standing there, my heart hammering against my ribs, and the next I was sprinting toward the house, Rocky right beside me. I made it to the porch before I dared to look back. She was closer, but she wasn't walking. She was just there, closer than before. Too close. I tore through the front door, slamming it behind me and locking it twice. Rocky whined, pressing himself against my leg, his whole body trembling. I backed away from the door, breath shuddering, waiting for something to happen. But nothing did. Minutes stretched into hours, and eventually, exhaustion pulled me under. I woke in the dead of night. At first, I didn't know why. The house was silent. Rocky was curled up at the foot of the bed, his breathing slow and steady. Then I heard it, scraping, a long, slow dragging sound against the outside wall. Then another, and another. I couldn't move. I lay there, paralyzed, listening as the sound moved around the house. My skin crawled. It felt wrong. Not like an animal, not like the wind. It was deliberate. Testing, feeling, searching. And then the whispering started. I couldn't make out the words, but it was right outside my window. A soft, rasping voice, almost playful. A child trying to mimic a song they didn't understand. I shut my eyes tight. It wasn't real. It wasn't real. I don't know how long it lasted. Hours. Maybe minutes. But eventually, the whispering stopped. The scraping faded. And somehow, at some point, I fell asleep. The next morning, I found footprints outside the house. Not human. Not animal. Something in between. Rocky refused to go near the woods after that. He stayed glued to my side, ears always alert, eyes darting to the tree line whenever we stepped outside. I told my uncle what happened, and he just nodded, like he had been expecting it. He didn't say much, just told me to be careful, and that some things don't like to be noticed. I never saw her again, but some nights, even now, I wake up to the feeling of being watched. And in the silence of my room, I hear it. That same soft whisper, calling my name.